Welcome to another episode of Until It's Done, a devoted podcast. I'm your host, Dana Lynn Kay, and I have a really juicy podcast for you today. And I say juicy because a few weeks ago, we did a podcast with a matchmaker. And we were talking about dating. We were talking about like getting back in the dating scene, whether, you know, you're divorced or you've just been single for a while, whatever. And we were talking about red flags. We were talking about all those things. And then like in the conversation, we rolled into narcissists. And that's scary. It's out there. Like they're out there. And I'll be honest, I had no idea until a few years ago that was even a thing, that it even existed. And then on social media, like the word kept popping up, and then people talking about it. And I was like, wow, this is really weird. Because at the same time of me experiencing like a handful of narcissists and experiences that I had no idea what was happening. I mean, it was like a wild roller coaster ride from hell. Like and then I realized what it was. And then people are talking about it. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I've touched on it on my social media, but like I've never done a podcast about it. And I said on that episode, like, okay, we need to delve into this. So I have with me my girlfriend, Kristina Lila. She is a holistic wellness coach and a personal chef. So that's her main gig, but she happens to also be an expert on this topic. And so we were reaching out to each other and we were talking about this topic, and she's had a wild experience with it. And I've had experiences, and we were like, let's get together and just chat as girlfriends about it. And I think that what we're doing can really enlighten a lot of people listening. So if you want, first of all, let's go over even what is a narcissist?
So I believe a narcissist is, the term is overused a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's dangerous for people that are really dealing with them, because it leaves them really confused. Like, oh, I'm just dealing with what everyone else is dealing with. A narcissist is a person that likes to be admired. They are manipulative. They are emotionally abusive. They are financially abusive. And their main goal for everything in life is to control the people around them.
Amen. I think you nailed that. Sounds like everything that I experienced as well. A lot of addictive behaviors, things like that too. Yeah.
And there's two kinds of narcissists. There's a narcissist that comes from a childhood of a lot of trauma, and they're always seeking security in other people. There are another kind of narcissist that is more aggressive. They're a little bit more dangerous. So I think that when you're dealing with them, it can be very overwhelming because you make excuses for their behaviors and you don't really know which one you're dealing with unless you've had experience in the past with it.
Right. And some people don't even know that that's what they're dealing with. I mean, I was very naive. I'd never dealt with a narcissist before when I had my experience. And it was like, what is happening? I'm on a crazy train. Like, am I crazy? All of a sudden, as the person...
You're not crazy.
Right. And it's like, what is happening? Like,
I don't think most people know what they're dealing with when they're in it. It's when you finally separate yourself from it that you see things clearly. And that's why there's so many people that are empaths, and there's so many people that are, highly sensitive people that are kind of trapped in this like toxic cycle and behavior with narcissists, because you don't realize it when you're going through it. And it's the whole point of the narcissist. They're manipulating you. They're breaking you down.
Yep.
So that you don't realize what you're going through. You do think, like, am I on a crazy train?
Yes.
Am I going crazy? Did this person just say this, but I know that it's this? Like, it's like if you walk outside and the sky's blue and someone's telling you it's green, and you can see with your own eyes it's blue and you know that it's blue. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and narcissists go after really strong personalities, and I think that is a big misconception. I think when people hear narcissist and they know what a narcissist is about, they assume that they go after like a weak woman,
right,
or somebody weak, somebody that's easily manipulated, and that's actually not the case. A narcissist goes after the energy that they want in their life, that they want to attract. That's usually something that they want to mirror. So that's comes in a package of a person that is strong-willed, that has a voice, that is independent, that are all the things that a narcissist actually really admires and wants to be more like. And then they slowly break you down over time. They suck the energy. All those good things that an empath carries, they suck it out of you to fuel themselves until there's really nothing left. And there's a process and there's steps kind of in a relationship with a narcissist that a narcissist goes through.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that be, you know, first it's like love bombing. So they come in, they seem perfect. They are offering you all this, you know, all these things that you didn't think existed.
Yep.
Then they try to isolate you. The abuse happens in that phase, and then they typically discard you.
Yeah.
And that can happen quickly. That can happen over years and years and years of time dealing with a narcissist. It kind of shows up in different ways. And a narcissist is not always, I think too, we always jump to the conclusion that it's like a relationship. It can be a friendship. It can be someone in your family. It can be a parent many times.
Yes.
It can be a work relationship. So I think that there's a misconception there too, that it's always a romantic relationship, and that's just not the case. Mother, son situations, step parents, daughter. Yeah, it can show up in your life in all
I'm glad you said that, because it isn't just I mean, I happen to only have dealt with it in a relationship, you know, a love type of, you know, whatever. But I wouldn't say there's love there, but whatever.
Romantic relationship.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, I mean, the more I started discussing it with people, the more I found out, like, people would say my mother's a narcissist, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is really happening in a lot of different places in people's lives, and it's scary and it's sad, and sometimes people don't even realize it, like you said, until they are like, kind of, they get to step out of the situation and look like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you don't realize it until later. And even when you're out of it, you don't realize the extent of what you've really gone through until like healing starts to take place. I think too, like, these days, when I say it's overused, there's like a very fine line between like really diagnosing someone as having a narcissistic personality disorder. There are millions of people that live with narcissistic traits.
Right.
That is different from being with somebody that is a narcissistic personality disorder. And so I think that we should say that and make that clear, because you could be dealing with someone and you could be really in love. You could have a husband that's has narcissistic traits, and that's not saying that they're a full-blown narcissist and they'll never change. When you have traits, that's something that someone can work on, and that's something you can go to therapy for and counseling, and that's something that someone can change about themselves. But if you are a true full-blown narcissist, or you're dealing with one that is, they don't change. I think that that's really important for women to understand.
He'll never change.
No.
Yeah.
Some people don't change. And it's not just women. I say that because I speak from experience and stuff sometimes, and my own experiences, but it can be anyone. There's plenty of narcissistic women in the world too, and we're living in a day and age where we're in the selfie culture, we're in social media, you know, you have go online anytime you want. People are sitting there looking at themselves, taking pictures of themselves, talking about themselves. Those can be narcissistic traits, but to be a full-blown narcissistic personality disorder and diagnosed, it's a very dangerous thing that someone is dealing with.
I mean, isn't it even like they use like the word sociopath like connected to them?
That is what it is, because they're arrogant, self-centered, and the world revolves around them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it can be very scary. I remember, like, when I finally realized that I was dealing with one, it was like I had shots of adrenaline going through me into my fingertips, reading like, this is what was happening. This is what I've been involved with. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like all of a sudden you're like, this is why I'm feeling like I'm on this crazy train. And I thought I was the problem. Like he's making me feel like I was the problem. And all of a sudden it's like, it all starts. That's why I want, we're going to talk about like things to look for and things, because once you start reading and you start really like going down that road, it's like this like light bulb goes off.
Once something sparks that, okay, this might be something that I'm dealing with, again, in any area of your life, and you do start reading it. I actually brought a book with me today that really was life-changing for me, that a friend of mine, Erica, suggested that I read when I was going through a tough time. It's by Dr. Kristina Lila, and it's called Dodging Energy Vampires. And I like that phrase instead of narcissist all the time, like, because that is really what it is. A narcissist is an energy vampire. And
which is an amazing way to put it, because when I was involved with a narcissist, it did feel like all the time my energy was just being sucked to the point that I had nothing left to give anything else. Like it was like, and it's traumatic because it's like I'm a mother of 3 and like I have a business and all of a sudden all of my energy is being sucked to this person when I'm like, oh my God, I have so much else in my life. And like now I'm being put, even right? It's like all of a sudden all your priorities, all your things are like falling to the wayside because all of your energy is being sucked from dealing with this person.
There's so many levels to it, I think, and why I liked this book also, and advice that I would give to somebody that is coming to me. And I'm a nutritionist, but I also heal people that are dealing with trauma like this and coming out of bad relationships like this all the time through nutrition and through food and other steps that I do with my clients. So I think that when you exit a relationship with a narcissist, or you are realizing your mother's one or your father's one or whoever it is, and you take a step back from it, the first thing you do, because you have been emotionally abused, that is what's happening to you. That's what's been happening to you. You've been emotionally abused and you've been controlled. And remember, they attract strong personalities. So a person that has a strong personality isn't going to think that that's happening to them.
Right.
So when you come out of it, the first thing that most abused people do is they try to figure out why the narcissist does what they do. Why does the narcissist work this way? Why is this happening to me? Why would this person do this to me? This book and other advice that I had gotten was to not so much look at why the narcissist does what they do, but why you have dealt with the things that you've dealt with and how you have dealt, looking within, looking and understanding why you are the person you are, which is usually you are an empath, you are a highly sensitive person, you look for the best in people, you try to make sense, you try to make common sense of something that is not ever going to be made common sense. And so this book is helpful, and I would suggest that to people going through these kinds of situations. Don't try to look for an answer. Don't try to make a reasoning for this person. Don't try to figure out why this person is acting this way. You have to look at yourself, because then it all makes much clearer sense.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense.
When you understand what an empath is and a highly sensitive person and how you react to situations and what you do, it actually takes kind of the power away from the narcissist, because it's not about them. Everything in your life has been about them since you've come into contact with them. And now, rather than figuring out reasons for why this person is the way that they are, which really the answer is always they are a narcissist. Right. There is no deep meaning behind it. There is no, he experienced this, she experienced that. The answer is they are a narcissist.
Right.
Why did this person cheat on me? They are a narcissist. Why did this person make me feel horrible on my birthday when everyone was trying to have fun and he ruined the day for me? Because he's a narcissist. That is your answer. So when you look at within yourself, you tend to learn more about yourself. Things make a lot more sense. I would highly suggest this book to anyone that feels they're going through that.
I'm actually like interested in reading the book just to like. I mean, look, I'm now involved with a man who is furthest from a narcissist.
Me too.
Right? Good. So we've like come through the other side, but it's still like an interesting thing, and I do feel like it's my duty, which is why we're doing this podcast. Like, I would like to educate other women so that they can get to the other, or men, or whoever you are. Like, we keep saying that, but just saying whoever you are, if you're involved with a narcissist, it's like, I feel so grateful that I was able to get through that situation, separate myself, block that person. I mean, to be so far from it. I mean, I know you have another story to tell us how you still have to deal with one and how you're doing it, but because not everybody gets to just cut off a narcissist forever. No. But, yeah, like I feel like the information was out there for me to educate myself to be able to move forward correctly. And so that's why we're doing this episode as a resource for other people now who are, unfortunately, there are many that are probably in this same situation.
I think too, what I personally see on social media, I don't know. I'm going to share this.
Yeah,
I'm going to share
this is a podcast.
I feel like if I was on any other podcast, I'd be careful. But you're my friend, so I feel like I can speak freely. But like there is a woman that I followed a long time ago that speaks about narcissism and narcissistic personality and things like that. But you can tell that she's still holding on to a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
She's giving advice to women, which is great because when you've been through this, it's like so life-changing that you just want to help other people.
I want to shout it from the rooftops. Like, I'm like, guys, like, I discovered something.
Yes,
oh my God.
Like but I think you have to be careful where you get your information from.
Right.
Especially information in helping you heal from this because I think with social media and just the access that humans have to each other is that you can be like kind of guided in the wrong direction. Yeah. You can be guided by somebody that clearly like hasn't healed completely. And I think doing a good deed, trying to help, but sometimes like if you have to really go through it and you have to really heal from it and you have to really be over it and see things really clearly before you give people advice on this. Yep. I think
I was saved by a friend of mine out in California who called me. She recognized what was going on just watching my social media. And she was like, Dana. And like we got on the phone and it was like she was my savior. She was the person who enlightened me to what was happening. She's like, I'm seeing it happen and I don't even know what's going on. And I see what's going on. And as soon as it was like her job because she got through a horrible narcissistic relationship or with that relationship. And then she recognized it in me and she was the one who saved me. And I'm like, and I'm forever grateful. I haven't spoken to her for a while, but it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll never forget the fact that she just came to my rescue and enlightened me as to what was going on because I was going down such an awful path with being involved with this person.
My suggestion is if you feel after listening to this podcast, maybe it sparks something and you're like, wow, maybe this is what I'm dealing with. Or you already know and you're not really sure. There are obviously trust a friend that maybe has been through it before. There's so much education in reading and in books by professionals that have dealt with this for, decades and are experts in it. Therapy is great, but social media, you have to be careful with.
You have to be careful. I know I did a lot of where I did like a lot of Googling and then I would just like read what the terms are. We'll go over some of the things that I wanted to talk about because like, some of the situation that I was in and the person that I was in, he was like textbook where I was like, oh my God, like I felt like I was reading about him. Like I was like, is this my story? Like, is this our story? And so I was like, oh my God, you're actually now so predictable to me because everything is like I Google about it and then like, this is exactly what's happening. And then I would go onto YouTube and I would listen to experts and I just sit there and just with an open mind and just kind of take each thing, for what it was and just like, and I would skip around, YouTube, but I would just listen. I would just delved into, resources so that then I could like empower myself to get out of the situation because ultimately I got it out of it myself. I mean, I didn't have,
And when you're doing that, that's what I just kind of going back to what I said. It's great to do that. Just make sure that you're also educating and diving into like what kind of personality you are.
Right.
What attracted you to that in the first place. And with this whole topic, when you talk to people that don't understand, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, like you're speaking like from a victim mentality. And it's like, you have to be careful with that too, because people don't understand. People that haven't been through this and have no experience,
you can't
in this,
even wrap your head around it.
They don't understand.
No.
So you are a victim to it.
Yes.
I'm not a victim personality type of person.
Right.
But you are able to acknowledge the things that you've been through and that you've been put through. I think it's good in order to your healing. You just don't want to stay in that mindset.
Right.
You just don't want to live in that mindset,
Right.
But acknowledging and being honest with yourself, I think, is important, because women, everybody's been through this, but women in particular, they're really hard on themselves coming out of these situations.
Yeah.
And they tend to get stuck kind of in that mentality. So it's okay to acknowledge the things that you've been through and you've been put through, but then you have to, like you did, educate yourself and grow from the situation.
Yeah. I have someone in my life, it's actually a male in my life, who's dealing with female narcissist in a romantic relationship. And, he's putting a lot of guilt on himself. Yeah. And I'm like, the thing is, it's like, when you're going through it, you don't want to take on that victim mentality, but you're a victim. Like you were, I mean, for a strong person to then discover like, holy cow, I have been like victimized. I mean, like what I've been put through, manipulated,
it's very
lied
hard
to
accept that when you have a strong personality. That's why you don't think, I'm not dealing with that. That's not what this is and stuff like that, because you don't think that
I'm
that
too
could ever
powerful
happen
for this.
to
Like,
you.
look what I've accomplished. Look who I am. Like that wouldn't happen to me. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
And what you said, when you really start like reading and this book, I mean, there obviously anything you read, there's going to be things that you relate to. There's going to be things that maybe don't touch you in that way, that it doesn't apply to you in your situation. But one thing for sure is same thing that happened to you. Like I was reading this book and I kind of knew what I was dealing with, but then there were some things in this book where I was like, oh my goodness. Like I could have literally ripped out a page from my diary or my journal and put it here, and it was literally word for word like the exact same thing.
Right.
So you go through this realization, and then you know it, but then like, what do you do with that information? And like, how do I get past this? And I think that's when I say like, start learning about yourself more than the other person. Like, you know why the person is doing this. I told you it's because they're a narcissist. Like it's honestly as simple as that. But learning about yourself can heal you from this, but also protect you moving forward.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is important.
So important for future relationships or future anything.
I've been in 2 relationships with people that are very narcissistic in my life. It took up most of my 20s and 30s, sadly. Wow. But the first one, I didn't really ever even realize that's why, until now, looking back, because now then I had a second one and I learned a lot from that. So people that have strong personalities are highly sensitive people, are empaths. They tend to repeat those patterns if they didn't learn the lesson the first time. So
and the some of the stuff, to the degree, I mean, there are some narcissists that are so obvious that it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's just like, this is like crazy. I mean, I used to feel like it's just evil, like demonic. It actually scared me, the stuff that went down, and and you're like, I can't even believe it. Some of it is a little more where the person's kind of like sliding under the radar and they're getting away with stuff. And you're like, well, is that person just selfish? Is that person just whatever? But then there are things that like little bombs that they will drop that you're like, no, that's a narcissist who's just playing their cards a certain way.
But you wouldn't notice that unless you've been through it and you experienced it and you know. Like 10 years ago, whatever, 20 years ago,
I have no
you would
idea.
have never known.
No.
Yeah.
You never know. And then you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like I was so hard on myself, or I thought that I was the one who was in the wrong, or
I look back on so many things. A narcissist tries to control. And like I said, that's emotionally, that's financially, which is a big one.
Yep.
And that comes into play a lot with families too.
Yep.
Financial control over you. And I wish I could say it the way that I feel it inside, but I think that anyone listening to this, there's a fear there of ending, especially when it comes to a parent and child relationship or a romantic relationship. There's a fear there always. And if I left this podcast today saying anything, like, you can't be scared to end the relationship.
Right.
You can't be put, by all means, like, I know that it's difficult. I know that you're like, oh, I need, like, you become dependent on them because they manipulated you
feel
and
like you can't be without them,
right.
That you'll be nothing without them, that you need, like, that they are, like, you'll never do it.
And have probably isolated you and put you in a position where you are financially dependent on them. And if I like I said, if I left this podcast saying anything today, it would just be like, everything always works out in life. Yeah. Like, even when there's no way, there is a way.
Yep.
And it always happens. And just know, like, if you're in it, if you're really experiencing and you're in it in this moment, and like, let this be your doors opening for you, that you can always, like, it's always going to work out and it's always going to be fine. And you don't have to do anything right away. I think that's good advice to give too. Like, if you know that this is what you're dealing with, but you don't know what to do next, like, you don't have to do anything. Start, setting your boundaries and setting yourself up for
educating yourself exit. So you know what's happening, so you stop feeling that they're making you feel. I mean, the feeling that I was always made to feel was that, like, I was wrong or I wasn't doing something right, and then every time I did something, like, no, that wasn't the right way, and it was just like,
do anything right with a
narcissist. And so there are these, like, different terms that come with a narcissist, and I started learning that when I was on my Google rampage, like, realizing, oh my gosh, this is what I'm involved in. So the love bombing is something that we spoke about. There's gaslighting. I was involved in a situation of triangulation with another woman to start to make me feel jealous, and then make her feel jealous, and then pin us against each other. And he's telling her that she's everything and I'm everything, and then he's telling her I'm crazy and she's blocking me. And then there were times when he would love bomb me so hard.
Aren't you so happy that situation?
Oh my God!
Like,
oh my God! No, the crazy time. Like, I talk about it now, but at the time I was like, it was like just. It was horrifying. It was terrifying. Like, I was like, what is happening? And I've never been put in this situation before. And then to have people turn against me, and there's terms like flying monkeys, there's terms, so the gaslighting. So all those things I want to talk about, because they're given those names because they're real things that a narcissist will do to a person and make you go from feeling confident, feeling totally secure, to feeling like you are some crazy idiot. The lies. Narcissists can lie like I'm just like nothing. Like it's nothing. They're sitting there. I could be telling you right now, I drive a pink Cadillac, and I am just so
about this guy.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, with no problem lying to you about other women or situations or whatever, making you feel very insecure. And then saying that you need me, but then also with the love bombing, so that they pull you back in, they make you feel secure, they make you feel loved, they make you feel like you're everything, and then ghosting.
And in actuality, they're feeding you crumbs.
Yes.
Even the nice things that they do, even I feel loved. It's really that you've been. It sounds terrible, but you've been broken down and trained, so that they can give the most minimal effort possible, and you take it as like,
and you're excited
loved
for it,
and I feel happy, and now everything is
oh my
great.
God, I would be like,
better.
oh good, he's like finally like, okay, he sees it, he said, and he would say the
and
voice.
And it really, when you look back, it's like what he did was like the littlest nothing thing,
right.
But that's like the most that you've gotten.
And then
so
you're
it
excited
feels
for that. And
normal.
you're like,
It's
oh my God,
sick,
that's so
actually.
pathetic.
It's really
Like,
sad when you look back at it.
It's so pathetic.
And lying is the big one, yes. Also, it goes back to like control. I said emotionally and financially, but emotionally can be broken down in so many like subcategories. So, for example, something that happened to me personally, I don't think I've ever shared this, but with my sister only. But they do try to ruin like special moments in your life,
Yep.
or downplay like times of excitement that you have going on, and another. That's emotionally controlling you. Also, emotionally controlling you is silence.
Yes.
So,
which is like the ghosting kind of, like just going totally silent.
Ghosting, ignoring. If you're married to one, them leaving the house, denying you a conversation of something that they did and you found out, let's go back to the lying thing. And then you find out and you're like, I want to talk about this. Even you could be the most kindest approach, nicest way, trying not to ruffle any feathers or step on anyone's toes. And they'll totally disregard your feelings and give you the silent treatment. That's very big with narcissists as well. So if you're in a relationship, if you're a man or a woman and you feel like I'm going through a hard time and I'm trying to talk to my partner, a true, kind, loving partner that cares about you is going to sit and listen to you and have a conversation with you. Yeah, everybody needs a little space sometimes and things like that. But a narcissist will literally just shut the door on you and take your voice away. That is what their goal is. It's to control you in every possible way.
Yep. And then they'll turn it around and be like, you need to accept me for this is how I am. And it's like, I don't communicate that way. And it's like, okay, so then now I'm in the wrong for not understanding that you don't want to communicate with me or talk to me. Or if I'm asking for some kind of understanding or love and affection, it's like, well, I just don't do that. So
an example, like what I was saying, what I told my sister, which I never shared, was like my birthday. I had a big birthday one year and I was like really excited, and I had a dinner with all of my friends and family planned, and right before I'm all ready, like ready to go walk out the door, and my boyfriend at that time was like, "You've really changed," and I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking? Like, we're walking out the door to my birthday. Like, what do you mean I've really changed? Like, I don't know. You're just like all into this organic stuff, and like you just don't have like. You're just different. You're just different. We're just growing apart. Like, why would we were fine all week, and then like the day of my birthday, like an hour before my birthday party, like just said something like that.
Open a can of worms that didn't need.
They will do things like that just to like hurt you.
Yep.
And so you have to really learn, and you will learn as you heal, like how to set boundaries for yourself in that situation, how to set boundaries for yourself with other people and moving forward. When you are in it with a narcissist and they have broken you down over time, like there are no boundaries. You can look back maybe to your relationship. Even if you said, I don't like this, don't do this to me, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you just usually don't stick to your boundaries.
No.
So that's a huge step.
It's like crazy that you just said that, because in my head I was thinking that's something that happened to me.
And you might have said, I don't like this, or don't do this, and I don't like this, but you don't, like, you really, really have to stick to your boundaries, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
I'll break that down a little bit more, but yes, they try to.
No, they try to. Mine was completely trying to change even who I was, trying to change my whole image, control me, and make me feel like I couldn't do it without him anymore. And it's like, and that everything that I had done or built was wrong. And anytime I was excited or proud of what I had done,
they do not want you to feel
they were
that
not
way.
happy about it.
No.
Or give me, like you said, a crumb where it's like I do something and he'd be like, wow, that's so great. And then he'd be like, but like this you're going to need me to do this next time because this really isn't good.
If you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you like at the time feel like you really love this person, you have to know that every good experience and every great day that you have will be followed
by a
not
bad one.
good day.
Yes.
It's never going to be consistently good.
That's why it's a roller coaster ride.
Yes.
That's why I called it a roller coaster.
I don't know. Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
It's a fucking roller coaster.
It's a up, and you're like, oh my God, everything's great. Life is amazing and wonderful.
It's
and then it's like this crash.
So draining. It's so draining. It's literally torturous.
Yep.
I dealt with it myself personally. Like I told you, my younger relationship that was with a narcissist didn't really affect me as much. I wasn't like, in love. I was young. I was just having fun and whatever. But he definitely, looking back, I know that that's the kind of personality he had. Then I had another one that was a very long relationship. And yes, it's...
And how many years was that one? Because that will get into like more of the details.
Yeah, that relationship was 9 years on and off.
Yeah.
It was like 3 years on, 3 years
Well, and on and off
3
is
years
normal
on.
for a narcissist.
Yes, because...
They like to come and go and do the whole...
Yes.
That's why it's a roller coaster.
So it's called... So what I told you in the steps that a narcissist usually takes, the chapters of life with a narcissist are the love bombing, then it's isolation, the abuse happens there, there's a discard, and then there's a Hoover, which is they come back. They try to work their way back in some way.
Oh, I was through all that. For sure.
And it happens, and they'll keep doing that same pattern, those same steps over and over and over until they really can't get anything else out of you. Until you've woken up and you've set boundaries for yourself that they don't want to follow, whatever it is that
because they need a supply.
Exactly, it's called a narcissistic supply, and so they'll repeat those steps, and then the Hoover part drops off after about, they say 3 to 6 times you'll go through those steps with a narcissist. If you're even still
alive to talk about it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, and then the final discard is just, then it's over because you've made the changes that you've needed to make to end that. But they'll continue those steps, and they say diagnose narcissist with a partnership, relationship, friendship. It's usually 3 to 6 times of that repetitive step.
Oh, and that is brutal. Because I thought that I was in my situation. It felt like 10 years. Like I was like, this has gone on forever. And I like look back and I'm like, no, it was a year of straight hell. So it seemed like I was in it for so long because it was in between my divorce and finding who I'm with now. I had fallen into that trap because I was very strong, but I had voids and I was vulnerable. And
looking back, do you think that you have dated other narcissists now outside of that person?
I don't think so. I mean, this was an experience like I had never experienced. Everybody else,
I didn't know too much. I knew bits and pieces, so
it was insane. And I remember being at the beach with our friend Jess, and I was dealing with him, and she was like, yo.
And
like
she's heard my story.
Yeah. And she was like, Dana, like, this is not
that.
okay. Yeah. And like, I would tell her some of this stuff, and I would tell her in innocence because I was like, no, it's fine. Like, that's what's happening. And she's like, no, like, this is not okay. And because like you said, somebody from the outside could recognize it, or the person finally can recognize it. But when I was in it, until I like even found out that it was a thing, I just thought like I'm dealing with another person, a different type of guy, a different, and then it got crazier and crazier. But then a few times what would happen was I would be with him and I would recognize that he was doing it to other people. Like I would be he'd be on the phone with people, say from like a work situation or whatever. And I'd hear him talk the way that he would like triangulate people. Like he'd hang up with one and say one thing, get on the phone, say something else to like get them against each other. And I'm like, oh my God. Like
there's different
kinds
this is
happening
of
to me
too. Like
evil.
So I'm going to get a little deep and ask you a question.
Yeah.
What do you think attracted you to that person in the beginning?
Aesthetics.
Okay.
Aesthetics.
So it's mostly just
He
looks.
he was such a narcissist that he took such good care of himself. He was so into aesthetics, so good looking. He had this like swagger about him, this confidence about him that I was just like, oh damn, this guy's got it going on. And like it was so
It's like high energy.
yes. And it was like so opposite than what I was dealing with my marriage. And I was going through a divorce. And the other thing is what I did was I opened up to him when we start, like on our first kind of like, first time we went out, and he already like brought me flowers, like did the whole thing that I hadn't gotten. I opened up a little bit, some information about my divorce and about my marriage and what I was missing and all this stuff. And
so you gave him his.
I gave him his stuff on a platter, on a platter, and he started giving me back everything that I wanted. And I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's my dream man. How did he know? How did he know?" Meanwhile, because I told him, like I told him what I was missing, what I needed. He saw that that's what I needed: the love, the affection, all the stuff, the romance, like all the things that I just wasn't getting. I was really deprived of that. And he was able to give me everything I wanted and then start the vicious pattern, because then all of a sudden he'd do it, but then the shit show started. But in the beginning, it was really like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And he's amazing and he thinks I'm amazing. And like, we're having so much fun and this is what I needed. And whoo. And then all of a sudden it's like it's switched and all this craziness would start coming out. And then people would start telling me things, or I would start noticing things, or he would get sloppy where he would, block me and try to hide things from me or lie to me. And then I would see, that this other girl is doing stories and that's his kitchen and he is hanging out with
familiar.
her. Yeah, like he is hanging out with her. Like I'm like, that's his backsplash. Like in his kitchen. That wasn't.
And then when you would ask him, what would he say?
Oh, that I'm crazy. And I'm crazy. And that wasn't her. And she just came over. She's dropping some stuff off. What are you talking about? That like, and there were times that I would show up unannounced because why not? Like we're dating. Like I thought we were like into the whatever. And her stuff is on his bed. But then I'm crazy. She just came over because I had to whatever. Like flipping it and flipping it.
It's really.
And then you're like, toxic. Wait, am I crazy? Because then he can lie so easily. And then say that she's the crazy one. And she came over and she's crazy. But meanwhile, she's telling him that I'm a psycho and I'm obsessed with him when I'm like, I'm not obsessed with you. You're the one who called me to tell me to come over.
Did you meet his family at all?
No. No, never. I never met his family. I knew the whole situation. But then he would say to me that, he doesn't introduce anyone to his family. And then I would see on stories, like he would discard me for a little bit and then she would be with his family. Like they'd come down and she would meet with them. And I'd be like, okay, I thought that you didn't introduce people to your family. But, it was always just a bunch of lies and twisted shit. And it was a crazy train. And then sucking me in and saying she's gone and she's not the one that I want and you are. And
I think like there's a lot of, excuse my language again, there's a lot of assholes in the world that cheat and lie and do things like that. No, this is like
different.
Right. And so I think that it's good that we're doing this today because that's why there are so many other things that you saw in him and that you see looking back, like that were really red flags, that were so much more than just a liar and a cheater.
Yes.
So I think that's just good to share because the word is used, the term is used too much. These days. And it kind of takes the meaning away from it for the people that are really dealing with like really bad ones.
Yeah.
So I encourage like when people use the term to like make sure you're using it in the right context.
Yeah.
Because there's people that are really like being abused and going through a lot that, it kind of takes away from that. So
right. No, yeah, there's definitely a difference between a cheater and somebody who's really messing with people's lives and emotions. And really, I mean, it took me a while. I mean, and luckily, like I said, it was only a year that I dealt with it before I was like, but there are people
that
like
don't
you
get to get away from it. And
right.
family members too, you could be dealing with a parent, like you're not maybe you're not going to cut your parent out of your life for the rest of your life, and you have to learn how to deal with this person.
Right.
You have to learn how to protect yourself around this person and set boundaries, and that's really important. People that are dealing with it with a significant other, if you have kids, a ex-husband, ex-wife relationship, baby
and that's
daddy.
what we're gonna talk about that on the next episode. I'll cut it off here because I think that there's so much more to talk about. That's why I'm glad we're doing a 2-part series. We're gonna talk about how do you ultimately cut it off like I did? What if you can't, and what do you do? And kind of tell some other examples and stories and things, and then we'll talk about how Kristina is dealing with her situation today. So thanks for being here on this episode.
Yes, it's my pleasure. It's something that, really changed my life in a lot of ways, healing from a bad situation. And I hope that this just sheds some educational information.
Yes.
It's that this is informative, and it's also supportive to people out there that aren't really sure what their next step is.
Yeah, or even what they're going through. And now all of a sudden
Yeah.
they're like, oh
Now
my
they're
gosh,
like,
that's
oh,
me.
okay. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for joining us on another episode of Until It's Done, a Devoted podcast.